Welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're tackling something
All right.
that sounds pretty sci-fi.
Yeah.
AI therapists.
I know, right?
I know it sounds a little out there,
Yeah.
but stick with us.
It's a fascinating field for sure.
You shared some really interesting work
Right.
by Tahir
Yes.
from the University of Toronto
Mm-hmm.
about using AI
Right.
to deliver CBT
Yeah.
for depression.
Cognitive behavioral therapy for depression.
Yeah.
It's not just theoretical.
That's right.
Tahir actually built these AI therapists
Okay.
and tested them.
So before we even get into the how,
Yeah.
I think it's important to start with why.
Sure.
Why is this research even important?
Well, depression affects so many people,
Right.
and CBT is a proven treatment.
Absolutely.
But actually finding a therapist who specializes in CBT
Right.
can be really tough.
Sure.
It can be expensive.
Yeah.
There can be long wait lists. Mm-hmm.
And there's stigma around seeking help
Yeah, absolutely.
for a lot of people.
So AI could make CBT
Mm-hmm.
more accessible.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Like imagine
Huge potential.
having a therapist
Yes.
available 24/7
Mm-hmm.
in your pocket.
Right in your pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got to admit,
Mm-hmm.
when I first heard about AI therapists,
Yeah.
I pictured someone typing into ChatGPT. You
Right.
know, help me with my anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and hoping for the best.
Hoping for the best.
Right. This is way more sophisticated.
It is much more sophisticated.
That right.
Yeah, this isn't about clever prompts or
Yeah.
just,
Mm.
chatbots. It's
Yeah.
about training AI
Okay.
to understand
Yeah.
and apply
Yeah.
the core principles
Mhm.
of CBT.
So how do you even
Yeah, how do you?
teach AI to be a therapist?
Right.
I mean, did he
That's a good question.
like make the AI
Uh-huh.
sit in on sessions?
With a human therapist.
It's interesting. He went a different route.
Okay.
Think about how we learn as humans.
Right.
We observe. We
Mm.
practice.
Yeah.
We get feedback.
Uh-huh.
So to train the AI,
Okay.
Tahir created a massive data set
Right.
of over 1,100
Wow.
simulated CBT sessions.
Okay.
Almost like a virtual training ground.
So he had an AI
Yeah.
role-playing as
That's
the
right.
therapist and the patient.
Exactly.
Oh,
It was
my.
amazing. And to generate this data,
Okay.
he used a really powerful language model.
Mm-hmm.
Like he built this whole virtual therapy world
Right,
for
right.
the AI to learn in.
Okay.
And then he used this data
Right.
to train smaller, more
Yeah.
efficient AI models.
Okay.
It's a technique called fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That sounds very technical.
It is a little bit.
So is it like
Yeah.
giving the AI a crash course in CBT?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Imagine you're learning to play piano. Right.
You start with basic exercises and scales.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get better,
Yeah.
you move on to more complex pieces.
Right.
Fine-tuning is like giving the AI
Okay.
those initial exercises,
Yeah.
showing it tons of examples
All right.
of CBT in action.
Okay.
So it can learn the patterns and techniques.
So once these AI therapists
Right.
were fine-tuned,
Mm-hmm.
how did they test if they could actually do the job?
Right.
Did they bring in real
Yeah.
patients?
Not real human patients,
Okay.
but they used another AI
Okay.
to play the role of the patient
All right.
in these simulated sessions.
So it's AI therapist
Yes, it's AI therapist
versus AI patient.
versus AI patient.
Okay. That's pretty futuristic.
Quite a futuristic showdown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you judge
Right.
who wins?
Yeah. How do you...
A therapy session.
That's a great question.
I'm
And that's where it gets even more meta.
right.
They used a third AI,
Oh, wow.
Google's Gemini.
To analyze the transcripts of these sessions
Mhm.
and score them
Okay.
based on a standard CBT rating scale.
Wow.
So it's AI judging AI therapy.
So AI judging AI therapy.
It's really something.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were the results?
Well,
Did these AI therapists pass the test?
the results were actually quite promising.
Okay.
The AI therapists that had this rigorous training
Mm-hmm.
performed much better
Right.
than those that were just given basic instructions.
So they weren't just,
Yeah.
given a few tips
Right.
and set free.
They showed a real grasp
Well,
of
yeah.
CBT techniques.
So they were really good.
Yeah, like asking the right kinds of questions,
Mm-hmm.
guiding the patient through exercises.
Okay, so they're not just spitting out
Yeah.
generic advice.
No.
They're actually applying what they've learned.
Exactly.
But did they sound
Yeah, that's a good question.
robots?
Well, surprisingly, yes.
Okay.
They were able to have conversations.
That flowed naturally.
Okay.
And felt collaborative.
Right.
Just like a real therapy session.
So is this the future of therapy? Are we all getting AI therapists now?
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
There are still some kinks to work out.
Of course, there's always a catch.
There are a few.
Right, and I'll tell you all about those
I will.
right after we come back.
All right.
So we left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Right.
You said there are still some kinks to work out with these AI therapists.
Yeah.
What kind of kinks are we talking about?
Well, sometimes
Okay.
they had trouble with pacing.
Okay.
You know, CBT is structured.
Right.
It has specific phases. And sometimes the AI therapists would jump ahead,
Yeah.
introduce techniques
Right.
before the patient was ready.
So like trying to run before you can walk.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in therapy,
Right.
that can be counterproductive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other
Yeah, were there any other
quirks?
some kind of funny quirks?
Anything that made you laugh or raise an eyebrow while you were reading these transcripts?
Definitely some funny moments
Yeah.
where the lines between therapist and patient got a little blurred.
Okay.
Like in one session,
Yeah.
the AI therapist offered phone support
Wait, really?
to the AI patient.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's not possible, obviously.
Right.
But it shows that the AI is trying to be helpful,
Yeah.
right? Like it's taking its role seriously.
So it's trying to
That's
apply its knowledge
Yeah,
to a real-world situation,
yeah.
even if it
Even though it doesn't quite understand
understand the limitations.
the limitations, right? So
Yeah.
even with those quirks,
Right. Even with those,
it sounds like
yeah.
these AI therapists
it's
are
really interesting.
showing real potential. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
how did they actually handle
How do they end?
the different CBT techniques?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things
Yeah.
that really impressed me about this
Yeah.
research.
Right.
One technique they were particularly good at
Okay.
was Socratic questioning.
Socratic questioning. I've heard of that.
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
Isn't that where the therapist asks a bunch of questions
Yeah, basically.
to help the patient uncover their own insights?
You got it.
Okay.
It's not about telling the patient what to think,
Right.
but guiding them to arrive at their own conclusions
Right.
by challenging their thoughts and assumptions.
So kind of like a thought detective.
Perfect analogy.
Okay.
Helping the patient piece together the clues,
Right.
right? And the AI therapists
Right.
were able to do this quite effectively,
Okay.
asking open-ended questions
Mhm.
that encouraged the AI patients to
Uh-huh.
reflect and really examine their beliefs.
So they weren't just spitting out, generic advice
Not at all.
or pre-programmed responses.
Right.
They were really tailoring
And
their
they're
approach
Tailoring their
to
approach.
each specific situation.
Exactly. And that's crucial
Yeah.
for any type of therapy,
Right.
but especially CBT.
Okay.
They were also really good
Mm-hmm.
at helping the AI patients identify
Right.
and challenge
Okay.
these thinking traps we call cognitive distortions.
Oh, yeah. Those are the best.
Like catastrophizing,
Catastrophizing.
mind reading,
Mind reading.
all or nothing thinking.
All or nothing thinking.
All those things can really mess with your head.
They really can.
Yeah.
And the AI therapists were able to.
Yeah, they were able to guide the patients
Mm-hmm.
through techniques like cognitive restructuring,
Right.
helping them reframe those negative thoughts
Okay.
into something more balanced and realistic.
It's really
It
interesting
is fascinating.
that an AI
Right.
can learn these complex human skills.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier
I did.
that they're not meant to replace human therapists.
They're not. I think
Yeah.
it's important to remember,
Okay.
this is still very early research.
Mm-hmm.
These AI therapists
Right.
are more like highly skilled assistants.
Okay.
They're there to support and augment the work
Right.
of human therapists.
So maybe in the future,
Right, maybe in the future.
you'll go to your human therapist
Yeah.
for guidance
Uh-huh.
and then use the AI therapist
Right.
to practice
Mm-hmm.
those CBT skills
To practice those skills.
between sessions.
Yeah, that's a very likely scenario.
Okay.
And think about the potential
Yeah.
for people who don't have access
Right.
to a human therapist.
Mhm.
They could use an AI therapist
Right.
to get started.
Yeah.
Learn the basics of CBT.
Mm-hmm.
Start working on their mental health.
Yeah, it could be a game changer
It could be a game changer for sure.
for mental health care.
Mm.
But, let's be real.
Yeah.
Some people
Some people
aren't going to be hesitant
Be hesitant.
about the idea
Mm.
of talking to a machine.
Sure.
about their feelings.
Of course, there are definitely valid concerns and things we need to be mindful of as this technology develops.
Well, speaking of things to be mindful of, this all sounds very promising.
Very promising.
But we haven't even touched...
We haven't really touched on the potential downsides.
Potential downsides.
Right, and there are some.
Yeah, and we'll get into those.
We will.
Right after this.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the potential benefits of AI therapists. And it is pretty exciting stuff.
It is.
But now I'm curious about those considerations. You mentioned, what are some of the potential
one thing
downsides or challenges?
That immediately comes to mind is human oversight.
Okay.
These AI therapists are still tools. And like any tool, they need to be used responsibly.
Absolutely.
And ethically.
So are you saying there should always be...
It's something to think about.
A human therapist involved?
Yeah.
Even if someone is?
You know, we need to figure out...
Using an AI therapist?
That's the right balance between AI and human involvement.
Okay.
Maybe in some cases, an AI therapist could be used independently.
Right.
But in others, it might be more of a collaborative approach with a human therapist guiding the process.
I can see how that would be important, especially as this technology is still developing.
Very much so.
What are some other things?
Well, data security is a big one.
Okay.
We're talking about mental health information, which is incredibly sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to make sure that any data collected
by these AI therapists is stored securely and used responsibly.
It's like with any...
It's like with any health information, really.
Health information, right?
Yeah.
People need to feel confident.
People need to know.
That their privacy is protected.
That their privacy is protected.
Absolutely.
And then there's the question of access and equity.
Right.
We don't want to create a system where AI therapists are only available to those who can afford them.
Right.
It's crucial that this technology is accessible to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of their income or background.
It's like with any new healthcare technology.
It really is. We need to make sure it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
And we also need to be mindful
we do.
Of the potential for
what happens if
unintended consequences.
Someone becomes overly reliant on an AI therapist and avoids seeking help from a human when they really need it.
That is a really good point.
Yeah, it's something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. It's important to remember that AI therapists are not a replacement.
They're not a replacement.
For human connection.
Well, human connection.
And support.
And support.
Right.
They can be a valuable tool.
They can.
But they shouldn't be seen as a cure-all.
Right. And finally, I think we need to be careful.
Yeah, and I think finally...
About overhyping.
About not overhyping.
The capabilities.
The capabilities.
Of AI therapists.
Of AI therapists.
Yes, right.
They're showing a lot of promise.
They are.
But we're still in those early stages of development.
Yeah.
It's important to manage expectations and be realistic about what AI can and cannot do.
It's like with any new technology. There's always a lot of...
There's a lot of buzz.
Buzz and excitement.
And excitement.
But we need to temper that with a healthy dose of...
Skepticism and critical thinking.
Of skepticism and critical thinking, for sure.
This has been a really thought-provoking...
It has...
deep dive.
It has been a fascinating conversation.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we've gone...
From the technical details.
Of
how these AI therapists work.
To the broader ethical and societal implications. It's clear that this technology... has the potential... to transform mental health care.
To really change things.
But we need to proceed. Thoughtfully and responsibly. Right.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
There's still a lot we don't know.
But
the research is moving quickly.
So quickly.
And it'll be fascinating to see.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see
how this field
evolves
in the coming years.
Absolutely.
Well, deep divers, if this conversation has sparked your curiosity, we've included links.
We have.
To Tahir's research and other resources.
And some other resources in the show notes.
Oh,
sure.
And as always, we encourage you.
To
keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep learning.
And keep learning.
And keep those minds engaged.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Keep
diving deep.